Hi guys, welcome to Conspiracy Friday. Today we'll be debunking Multit0mt0m. Yes. And he took a break for 2 months, but he's back. Stupider than ever. You might notice that I skipped because he got really inappropriate. He said that Pythagoras had the Naughties, the Babylonian army, and that made him hallucinate that the earth is a ball. Yes, very stupid things.
Funnily enough, in the same history books about Pythagoras, they tell us that there is no existing works or books written by him. And it seems to me that most of the stories are all made up. The same is
Or, he could have told his story in like speech. Or maybe like he did right, but it got like destroyed or something. Didn't think that one through, did you? Then again, do you think anything when you're making your videos?
true of Aristarchus of Samos. He dreamt up the heliocentric model where he placed the sun in the middle and the planets revolving around it. Again, they tell us that no surviving written works exist of Aristarchus. Surprise, surprise, the same is said of Eratosthenes, who apparently figured out the radius of the earth from Alexandria in Egypt, and he counted the camel steps that went to Syene and back. What a load of bollocks.
And so is Flat Earth. Flat Earth is also a load of bullocks. Plus, you could repeat the experiment yourself and prove the Earth is round. Maybe that these stories, these people are made up. So what? That doesn't disprove globe Earth straight away. There is still evidence. There is still things that prove that the Earth is a globe. And you flat earthers, you seem to not give evidence at all to prove otherwise. Or when you do, it's cherry picked.
Again, they say no written work exists of Eratosthenes. Then we come to Nicolaus Copernicus of Poland. In 1543,
You cannot say that he did not have any written works. He published a book. Damn it.
he published a book called De Revolutionibus Orbium Coelestium,
You got something right.
which is translated as On the Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres. But the funny thing is, there is no evidence that the luminaries we see are spheres. And everybody
Funnily enough, his book was to prove that Earth wasn't the center of the universe, and that in fact it was orbiting the sun. Funnily enough, you're nitpicking things that he didn't prove. He didn't know that flat earthers would come about in like the 1800s.
combined to promote his work, and we have been living on his model ever since.
And now with our advanced technology, we can see that stars are in fact spheres. His book was to prove that Earth wasn't the center of our solar system, wasn't the center of the universe, and that it was orbiting the sun.
In 1660, King Charles II of England, by charter, created the Royal Society. Really, they should be called the Royal Society of Freemasons.
Oh God, what is it up with people thinking globe Earth is linked with Satanism? It's like, I just agree with this. Therefore, it's supported by Satan. Like, what the hell, bro?
They admit that they were trying to prove the Copernicus model, or rather the Copernican model. After John Flamsteed, Edmund Halley became the second Astronomer Royal. Edmund Halley plotted many stars in the southern hemisphere. Sorry, strike that. Southern hemiplane. And he
Speaking of southern hemisphere and southern hemisphere, I haven't seen an explanation for the seasons that hasn't been debunked. But like, I've seen the sun and moon like the orbit closer and further from the center, which is really stupid. Because then it'd be, because unless if the sun like spins every 3 months, then that wouldn't work. So yeah, I haven't seen an explanation for the seasons. Also, I haven't seen an explanation where why we cannot see stars in the northern hemisphere but the southern hemisphere can. Well, their own stars and our stars. I haven't seen an explanation for that also.
also did a lot of work on the latitude and longitudes along the Atlantic Ocean. The problem here is that they were assuming a globe and using globe Earth math in quotation marks.
Because they knew that the Earth was a globe and they weren't a bunch of idiots thinking that everybody's a Freemason.
If you start from a false premise and a shaky foundation, then you
But see, the globe isn't shaky and it isn't shaky and has been proven many times. While you flat earthers think, no, we change to be proven and think that your model works when it fails. Every time.
are really boxing yourself in. You're being exclusive rather than being inclusive.
You're just describing flat earthers at this point.
Halley was also a close friend of James Bradley, who later became the third Astronomer Royal. In 1729, James Bradley claimed that he had found stellar aberration of the stars and nutation, which is the slight uneven nodding of the Earth axis caused by the changing direction of the gravitational pull of the Moon. Again, they are assuming a globe Earth. The aberration is simply refraction of light which causes the stars to appear slightly away from where they should be seen. And he was actually looking for stellar parallax, which he
He's doing something right so far. Also, I just lost focus on what he's saying. That's how boring his voice is.
couldn't find. Bradley documented that he had to tilt his telescope to capture the starlight and claimed the reason for this is that the Earth is at motion.
And what is your debunking that?
However, this phenomenon can be explained rationally by saying that the starlight in the medium of the ether is moving, not the Earth.
Well, you got that part right about being irrational. What is it up with ether? Also, no, that's not how it works. If that was the case, then by then the southern hemisphere could see that same star later. If it was in a separate frame. Man, you guys, you just put your bunch of stuff in a word salad and hope it comes out right. And it never does.
About 150 years after Bradley published his paper on stellar aberration, another Astronomer Royal and Fellow of the Royal Society, George Biddle Airy, conducted the same experiment in 1871. His experiment became famous and is known today as Airy's failure.
And it was to prove the ether, not Earth's motion.
After he failed to detect the motion
No, it failed to prove that ether was a thing.
of the Earth. Now, some people say that it's known as Airy's failure because he failed to detect the ether.
I want to give credit to Multit0mt0m that he actually acknowledged the people debunking him. I didn't ignore it like nobody's business.
But that is preposterous because the heliocentrists did not believe in the ether. They dismissed it. So it is folly to say that he was trying to find the ether. Airy's documented work.
That is the dumbest logic I've ever heard. He was trying to prove ether, and people weren't believing him. That doesn't mean that the experiment was not about proving ether. I swear, does he just think of things on the spot?
Airy's documented work shows that he expected a figure of 30 arc seconds, but he could only find 0.8 arc seconds. This proved that the Earth was not moving.
This proved that ether wasn't real.
Airy's experiment proved that the Earth
was ether isn't real. Spot on.
Stationary, and the starlight in the ether was moving. In 1887, Michelson and Morley conducted their famous experiment where they tried to prove the motion of the Earth. They passed two beams of light, one at the direction of travel of the Earth and the other at right angles to the direction of travel. Their hypothesis was that they would find the Earth moving around the Sun at 30 kilometers per second, but they only managed to measure 1 to 10 kilometers per second. Once again, they proved that the Earth was stationary.
And once again, Multit0mt0m bends the truth to his narrative. Let's actually search up this Michelson-Morley experiment.
By them light.